Hi, everyone. My name is Tara, and I'll be honest, I've had a lot of anxiety around this assignment and narrating. Maybe you have too. So this is my first go around, and I'm probably gonna stick with it no matter what, uh, just to get it done. So I decided to focus on the intellectual traditions. And the reason for that was I wanted to take a smaller bite out of the material to really concentrate on it. It just helped me focus. And so I decided to focus on basically the origins of conflict theory. Um, just to share, I have always liked studying conflict theory. It just makes sense to me in a lot of ways. Um, Even just looking around what's going on in the world right now. So I have broken it down over here of what I'm going to attempt to cover. And I hope you stick with me. So in our text, it does give us a brief introduction to conflict theory. Basically, conflict theory serves as a lens through which we examine the complexities of societal dynamics. So it asserts that conflict is inevitable due to the competition for resources and power among groups. The historical backdrop of this theory reveals a shift from traditional views of social harmony to more of an appreciation of the unequal distributions of power and resources. So philosophers like Hobbes, Marx, and Engels have really influenced this framework. They each contribute their own unique insights that continue to resonate today. So basically, in understanding conflict theory, this framework proposes that society is made up of groups competing for limited resources, which inevitably is going to lead to conflicts. Historically, conflict theory evolved from the critique of social order paradigms, kind of challenging the notion of harmony in society and focusing on power dynamics. As I mentioned before, the key figures, such as Hobbes, Marx, and Engels, contributed really the foundational ideas, shaping the discourse around power, class struggle, and social contracts. So going back to Hobbes, Hobbes, he kind of presents a bleak or a stark portrayal of human nature, suggesting that individuals are kind of predisposed towards conflict due to their fundamental self-interest and competitive instincts. So his concept of the social contract emerges as a framework for kind of establishing order and mitigating violence, transforming the chaotic, quote, state of nature into a structured society. So basically, Hobbes lays the groundwork for understanding the importance of authority and governance in kind of curtailing conflict and establishing social order. So the main takeaways from Hobbes is that he believes that humans are inherently self-interested and competitive. So this is going to result in conflict in the absence of authority. Hobbes kind of sees the instinct of survival leading individuals to assert themselves against others. which leads us to need kind of an agreed upon social contract to avoid these conflicts. One of the things that the text, touched on was how he famously characterized nature as chaotic environment where life is kind of solitary and brutish, and he called it the war of all against all. So the establishment of social order is kind of intertwined with the notion of the social contract, where individuals willingly concede certain liberties to gain protection and stability. This foundational concept reveals how societies strive to regulate self-interest through established institutions and laws. So by delineating acceptable behaviors, laws provide a mechanism for maintaining order, thereby diminishing the space for inherent conflict among individuals. We have contract theory, which basically says that, we're all agreeing to surrender freedoms in exchange for stability, more or less. Self-interest regulation. It relies on institutions that regulate self-interest and guide our behaviors towards a collective harmony. And laws as a stability mechanism. Laws serve to stabilize society by setting boundaries for behavior. So thereby they ensure the predictability and reduce the potential for conflict. So conflict versus exchange theory. The contrasting frameworks of conflict and exchange theory, they kind of provide insights into social dynamics. So they both acknowledge self-interest as a critical driver of behavior. However, conflict theory delineates a kind of harsher reality of competition and inequality in resource distribution. Going back to Hobbes, seeing everything as kind of stark and bleak. Whereas exchange theory offers a more cooperative perspective, highlighting how negotiations can mitigate conflict and foster positive relationships. These differences underscore the complexity of social interactions and the various pathways through which societies may strive for harmony. So if you recall in the text this week, the chapter started out with a couple who they were undergoing counseling prior to getting married, and they had kind of different ideas of how much they should be fighting once they were married and what was considered healthy and what was considered normal. And I guess it was the priest, or I'm not sure who, but he basically was telling them, or to the husband who didn't think they should be fighting much, if you don't fight, how are you going to grow? So both theories, as I said earlier, they kind of start with the premise of self-interest as a key motivator of human behavior, but they diverge significantly in their implications. So conflict theory emphasizes inequality in resource distribution, while exchange theory focuses on interactions that are beneficial among parties. Exchange theory promotes negotiation as a pathway to cooperation, whereas conflict theory kind of underscores the inevitability of tension in societal relations. So Marx and Engels, they had, a materialist perspective. Marx and Engels they revolutionized conflict theory by introducing their materialistic framework, which was a critique of these idealistic perspectives. So, by emphasizing the significance of material conditions over abstract ideas, they highlighted the role of class conflict as a fundamental catalyst for historical evolution. So, their concept of dialectical materialism illustrates how contradictions within society propel change, positioning conflict at the heart of social development. This approach remains critical to understanding the intricacies of societal transformations and how this kind of translates to the family, as they saw the family as almost like the cellular model of society. Most notably, obviously, when it came to gender and the conflicts there. So Marx and Engels rejected Hegel's focus on ideas, right? And they really believed that class struggles were the engine of historical change, the cause of all this change, really going back to the earliest days of history. Their philosophy, it's kind of saying that societal development emerges from the conflict of social forces. And it really emphasizes the process of change through contradictions. So, in other words, all of this conflict is the major driver of change. So, the way the family kind of fits into conflict theory. Within conflict theory, the family unit is kind of examined as a complex microcosm of society that encapsulates essential power dynamics and conflicts. This analysis recognizes the dual influence of biological self-interest and social constructs, shaping interactions among family members. Engels' contributions elucidate how economic realities impact familial relationships, revealing kind of a landscape where cooperation is often tempered by underlying tensions and struggles for power. So families reflect like the broader societal structures, right? And the interplay of biological instincts and socialization, it creates unique family dynamics that can lead to both cooperation and Engels analyzed the family structure as both a site of conflict and cooperation, revealing how economic factors influence family relationships. So, resource scarcity, understanding the roots of conflict through resource scarcity. Limited resources, they often lead to competition, resulting in conflicts that manifest on both individual and societal levels. So if you're thinking about what if there was not a limitation on resources and there was enough or more than enough for everyone, would there become conflicts? Marx was really focused on the equitable, or rather the unequitable or inequitable resource distribution. And he believed that this was causing all of the conflicts. The struggles for resources reveal deeper power dynamics, exposing how control over resources shapes us. So, scarcity of resources serves as a fundamental trigger for conflict across various spheres of society. When resources are limited, competition intensifies, often leading to disputes that can escalate into broader conflicts. Marx's principles of equitable distribution accentuate how unequal access to resources can be a breeding ground for tension. The interplay of power dynamics associated with resource control provides further insights into the nature of conflict, revealing the complexities involved in human relationships. So the structural dimensions of conflict. And George, I think that's how you say it, Simmel. So Simmel identified conflict as, an underlying and integral aspect of social life that could be, destructive or constructive. He argued that conflict can have a positive role, right? That can foster cohesion among groups and stimulate social change by clarifying goals. His framework emphasized the tension between individual autonomy and collective dynamics, kind of shaping the nature of interpersonal relationships. So, in sum, Simmel's perspective of conflict emphasizes its dual character, as we said, as both a destructive and constructive force. He articulated how conflict can enhance group cohesion by kind of forcing alignment around shared goals or objectives. Additionally, his exploration of the nuances between autonomy and collectivism highlights how relationships are influenced by broader social conflicts, providing insights into the structural dimensions of social life. So the evolution of conflict theory, it illustrates kind of its enduring relevance and adaptability in addressing contemporary social issues, right? So all of these things are still relevant today. So transitioning from, its Marxist origins, conflict theory has expanded into various frameworks or critical frameworks that focus on emancipation and empowerment. So today, scholars apply conflict theory to analyze a myriad of societal challenges, exploring dimensions such as race, gender, and class, thereby reinforcing its application in an increasingly complex social landscape. So, Bourdieu, again, I hope I'm saying it right, Pierre Bourdieu, his contributions to conflict theory, they really kind of enriched the conversation by highlighting the important relationship between individual choices and structural constraints. So his work emphasizes how various forms of capital, like economic, cultural, and social, are instrumental in producing class distinctions that drive conflict. Additionally, his examination of family dynamics reveals how these social hierarchies manifest within familial relationships, affecting dynamics and conflicts within the family unit. So, conflict theory, let's apply it to real world scenarios. So conflict theory provides a lens through which to analyze contemporary issues, ranging from, interpersonal conflicts to systemic societal challenges. Using conflict theory, we can kind of dissect familial disputes to unearth underlying power dynamics and resource distribution issues. Conflict theory aids in understanding class struggles as well, illuminating how economic disparities lead to tensions between different social classes. These case studies allow us to see the theory's relevance in real life, so reinforcing its applicability to diverse social issues. So in conclusion, the Journey Through Conflict theory sheds light on the multifaceted nature of human interaction shaped by power dynamics. The key takeaways for me illustrate how conflict is integral to societal understanding, with broad implications for social justice and inequality discourse. Looking ahead, there are numerous avenues for future research that could further our understanding of these dynamics, contributing to potential resolutions and the evolution of social theory. Thank you for sticking with me, and I hope everyone has a great week.